You're, you're hereby summoned to attend the monthly Business and Culture Committee to be held in the Council Chamber in Strabane, Tuesday, 10th of September. If I take the roll call, Alderman Cook,
Apologies.
Alderman Guy,
Apologies.
Alderman Middleton,
Here.
Councillor Barr, Councillor Duffy,
Shaw.
Councillor Farrell,
Here.
Councillor Harkin, Councillor Hart, Councillor Hutton, Councillor McDade, Councillor McHugh, Councillor Mooney, Councillor O'Farrell, Councillor O'Neillis. Thank you, members.
Okay, members, moving on to the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live on the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you are seated in public seating media area, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. By entering the council chamber and using the press or public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and consenting to the use and storage of these images for webcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. A copy of the council's privacy notice can be found on the website. Chairperson's business. I have two items from myself. On behalf of the Mayor's Office, I attended the 10th anniversary of the anniversary for Jerry Anderson, the broadcaster for BBC, who we all know and loved. That was a very good event, and it was great to honor the work of him. I know growing up that he didn't know many celebrities, but Jerry Anderson always seemed to be one in our house. My mother never stopped listening to him on the radio, so it was good to be a part of that. And speaking to one gentleman, what sort of summed it up for me, and I never really thought of it this way, especially when it comes to radio. He said that when he was having a bad day, he got up and put on the radio and listened to the radio show, and it was just so joyful and funny that it just lifted his mood for the rest of the day. And I thought that was a good thing to hear at the event. The other item I have is Councillor Harkin. I don't have much detail around it. Just that you wanted to come on it. I don't know if you have a proposal or a motion, because if you do, then I think it's only fair that you should give the committee opportunity and notice, and you haven't done so. But go ahead with your speaking notes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, first of all, I want to commend the East Derry IPSC for organising a protest at the Portrush Air Show on Saturday. And I, along with other people from the Derry IPSC, went and attended that, and the Donegal IPSC as well. And the issue here is that this event, aside from its overt militarism, was sponsored by Spirit Aerosystems and by Thales. And the reason why I'm raising it is because both those arms manufacturers are involved in the genocide in Gaza, very clearly involved in the genocide in Gaza. Thales right now has a partnership arrangement with Raytheon. People will know the history of Raytheon in Derry, but Raytheon is the biggest provider of weapons right now to Israel. And we're closing in on a year of Israel's genocidal attack on Gaza. Spirit Aerosystems, if people want to go and do the research, provides parts for military equipment that Israel is using in Gaza as we speak. And I think that it was sick to have these organizations as the sponsors for the air show on Saturday. This was billed by the BBC and others as the great return of the Portrush Air Show as a family day. And I think that there is, and it was played up by Causeway, Glens and Borough Council as a fantastic event that they were delighted to have. Ulster University and Queen's University had both had stalls along with Thales at the STEM Village, which was where young people as young as 10 years old were handed massive military armaments where the British Army showed them how to use them. These are exactly the types of weapons that Thales are involved in providing right now to the Israeli army that are being used to massacre 10-year-old children inside Gaza. So this is an issue. I think that this is a neighbouring council. This was an issue that was promoted on, for people in Derry to go to and for people across the Derry and Strabane district to go to. And I think that there's a number of issues. One, the World Court has said that Israel is committing plausible genocide. There may be any day now arrest warrants issued for Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. If it is the case that Israel is proven to be complicit in genocide, what does that mean for the Causeway, Glens and Borough Council? That they are having ratepayers participate in an event where the main sponsors are deeply involved and profiteering from the slaughter of Gaza's civilians. I think this event also whitewashes the role of these organizations. As a family fun day, it's disgusting that this would be billed as a family fun day where the two main sponsors are involved in genocide against children, where they've basically killed more than 20,000 children that we know about, where they've destroyed, as we know, 80% of the educational facilities inside Gaza. And it's also, this question must also go to Ulster University and Queen's. What are they doing at an education event where the main sponsors are involved in the mass slaughter of children across Gaza? So whether we do it today, whether we agree it today or at the full council meeting, because I heard what you said, Chair, about giving people prior notice, I think we need the right to the Causeway and Glens Borough Council expressing our concern about this event, about having two major armed companies that are involved in the genocide in Gaza be the main sponsors, the main financial sponsors, where they are promoted as great organizations to people right across our district and beyond. And I think we also have the right to Ulster University and Queen's University questioning them about their participation in a so-called educational event that involved Thales and Spirit Aerosystems. This is about standing up the arms manufacturers who are deeply involved and complicit in war crimes, in violation of human rights, and also in genocide. So I thought it was important to bring this today since the air show just happened and since there was so much positive coverage of it across the board. It's sad that this happened, and it's sad that weapons manufacturers have been allowed to kind of whitewash their role and that a council was so deeply involved in letting this happen, and two major educational institutions. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Harkin, on this instance, I'm going to allow it on the basis of the topic and the whole world stage and the decisions being made about that the common agreement is that there is crimes and so on. But I will say that in future, you do need to give prior notice and you do need to inform the committee if you're going to bring anything to the committee. It's just a matter of courtesy. I'm sure you know that. Just before we do that, Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. I'll keep my comments brief. The air show was supported by hundreds of thousands of people. The air show was and is a fantastic event for the family and, importantly, the economy. The event is hugely successful and has a proud history of supporting our armed forces. These events are enjoyed by all and shouldn't be the subject of political point scoring. I think that this is wholly inappropriate today. I do not wish to be associated with Councillor Harkin's comments, and if we are going to write letters, I would request a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Middleton. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks to Councillor Harkin for raising this. I would have been at the air show on Saturday with the members of IPSC, except I was in Dublin doing something else. But I think given that we as a council have endorsed BDS and within our city and district, people here are boycotting things like Coca-Cola and Puma and all other products. And then 40 minutes up the road, two of the main sponsors are directly complicit in this genocide. Is completely disgraceful. I'm happy to second Councillor Harkin's motion if you need a seconder to write the letter. I actually didn't realise that Ulster University and Queen's were at the event as well promoting it, and I am completely in agreement that we need to be writing to them as well as educational bodies. Given the number of children that have been murdered in cold blood, is an absolute disgrace that they would be associated with these two arms manufacturers. No council in Northern Ireland should be associating themselves with arms manufacturers, especially ones that are complicit in the genocide in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. Alderman Hussey.
Well, thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of committee, but in the absence of Alderman Guy, on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, we would actually congratulate Causeway Coast and Glens for bringing back the air show, which has been missing for quite a few years. An absolutely tremendous event. I was down at myself and my family on Sunday, unfortunately, because the weather meant there was no flying on Sunday. But to tour around the various exhibitions, etc., was very enlightening. It was great to see our armed forces there in strength, and the crowds were appreciative of all that were there. So I congratulate Causeway Coast and Glen on behalf of our party for reinvigorating the air show, bringing it back. It's a tremendous boost to the Northwest area in general, and I think it's incoherent that we as a council would tell another neighbouring council what they should do. Forget about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't realise that Councillor Harkin had made a proposal there, but I always want to second it myself. I'd like to be totally associated with his remarks, and if need be, maybe this should go to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Can we see your proposal? Is are you going to send it through? Yeah, just give it a minute here until we get it through. Okay, members, there's a proposal on your screen there. I'll give you a wee minute to read it over, and then we will open it.
Chair,
Councillor McHugh.
just while councillors are reading over it, just on behalf of Sinn Féin, just like to say that we also support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor McHugh. Okay, members, I know that there were some dissenting voices before the actual proposal was put on the screen. And just to get a feel, as nothing's changed there, is that you're against? Yeah. So we're going to take it to a vote then. Yeah.
Okay, members, so in relation to the motion there, Alderman Middleton,
Against?
Councillor Barr, Councillor Duffy,
For.
Councillor Farrell,
For.
Councillor Harkin,
Or.
Councillor Hart,
that,
Councillor McDade, Councillor McHugh, Councillor Mooney,
For.
Councillor Farrell, Councillor O'Neillis. Thank you, members.
Okay, members, that's 10 for and 1 against. The proposal passes. Thank you. So moving on. Number 6, members, the matters arising from the open minutes of the previous business culture meeting held on Tuesday, the 6th of July. Have we any matters arising? Nobody indicating. Okay, moving on. Number 7 is the Christmas events, and that is 18.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to update you on programming and marketing plans for Christmas 2024. I'll just focus on some of the key points and key dates in this, but the Council's Christmas programming will begin with the Guildhall Craft Fair on Friday the 22nd of November and continue right throughout December, focusing on key weekends. Christmas programme is coordinated by this Directorate, Business and Culture, and it's designed to complement the wider calendar of events right throughout the city and district and enhance the visitor and shopper experience of visitors and locals alike throughout the city and district. We, as an officer team, obviously work closely with our colleagues in environment and regeneration to ensure the various Christmas lighting schemes are complemented by a mixture of events and activities that ensure an enriched overall visitor and shopper experience. And obviously you'll be aware that Christmas lighting is a subject of a separate report to Environment and Regeneration Committee. So the City Christmas Switch On event will be held on Friday the 22nd of November. Following the success of the Christmas processions in the last number of years, the main Christmas Switch On event will continue in this format. The tender has been awarded to Lux, the Landscape Theatre and Professional Spectacle, in line with Council's procurement and policy. Strabane Switch On, following feedback from the 2023 event, it's proposed that it will revert to the traditional Switch On event format, which includes a main stage with a lot of local music, choral singing, animation, and a street market focusing on throughout the day right up to the Switch On that evening. The overall programming obviously focuses on bringing communities together and a mix of quality programming and strong marketing campaign. Obviously, there'll be the 2024 campaign will focus on the theme of gift and shop local and share joy, and will build on the success of previous campaigns along these themes. Call out will be made to other event organisers, promoters and businesses who have activity throughout the Christmas period to be included in the campaign and overall programme. But the proposed key Christmas programming dates for your diary for 2024 are Friday the 22nd of November, the 24th, which is the Guildhall Craft Fair. Switch On events in the city on Friday the 22nd of November, Saturday the 23rd of November in Strabane. The Mayor Christmas will have our own Christmas programming, details of which will be announced in due course throughout the city and district. The Mayor will have 2 Christmas tea dances on Wednesday the 11th of December in the Guildhall and Tuesday the 17th of December in St Patrick's Hall in Strabane. The marketing campaign will consist of extensive digital and social media strategies. Again, a digital gift guide will be created focusing on shop local gift guide. It utilises the What's On Derry Strabane social media platforms and the What's On Derry Strabane app. Marketing officers will also engage with partners and stakeholders, including Visit Derry, CCI and the Bid in Strabane. Campaign activities will begin in November and will continue right through to the end of January, with a post-Christmas initiative designed to express gratitude to the community for their support of local businesses. The council have a wider, it should be noted, the council have a wider budget for Christmas illuminations in excess of over 200,000. And again, we will, colleagues and officers in this department, work closely with the colleagues in environment and regeneration to ensure that the Christmas lighting display achieve maximum impact with regard to supporting business and visitor growth, with schemes provided within the main business and trading areas so as to enhance and attract shoppers and visitors into these commercial areas. The current budget allocations are set out in the report, and members, you should note that there's a 50% reduction in the marketing budget this year due to the cut to the overall budget as part of the rates process. This will no doubt have an impact on the profile of the event and overall Christmas promotion. You're asked, members, to note the content of the report and approve the programming and financial arrangements set out in the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Aileen. So the first indicated speaker is Councillor Hart.
Thanks, Aileen, for that report, and I'm happy to propose it. I welcome all the work that the council officers are doing in relation to Christmas events. I was at the Strabane Switch On last year, and it was well received by everybody there, so thanks again.
Thank you, Councillor Hart. Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. So Christmas is obviously the most wonderful time of the year, and I think everybody looks forward to the Christmas Switch On, where we see the city, well, specifically in Derry, the city come to life. We've got the parade through the city centre. We have Santa coming to town. But obviously, this year, Foyle Street is closed. And I think the route last year included Foyle Street. And I note that is recognised in the report, and a new route is being devised as we speak. Have we any idea when that's going to be agreed? But happy to support on behalf of the SLP.
Are you seconding it? Yeah. Thank you. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so we're hoping to agree that fairly soon, and we will happily share that detail with members as soon as it's agreed. But it will cover the majority of the city centre streets. Just obviously we have to make adjustments now for Foyle Street, but we are working on it, and it shouldn't detract from the overall experience.
Have enough. Next indicated speaker is Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. Following my proposal that the Christmas street market be resurrected in Strabane as a boost to local traders, and also as a welcome addition to the Strabane events calendar, I'm delighted to see it back this year. And as we know, it was agreed that, as was the case previous, it would have to be community led. And for this end, I would like to thank Ursula Doherty and Strabane Community Project for stepping up to it. The previous Christmas market was a eagerly looked forward to event and provided a social and economical lift to the town during the festive period. And while I have no doubt the organisers of previous events will be hard act to follow, I believe this year can be a success, and I would hope to see the market become a standalone event next year as it was previous. But delighted to see it back here.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. And tremendous work that is done in the city and in Strabane town. And you're expecting the but, I'm sure. 2.2 refers to drawing on the city and district's rich built and cultural heritage, and did work in partnership with district-wide businesses. When you say working in partnership with district-wide businesses, how far does that stretch? And when will that engagement begin? I love the idea of the gift and shop local, etc. But how local is local? Are we encouraging, for example, Newton Stewart, Donaghmore, wherever, that they will become involved in that? 2.4 refers, no, not 2.4, sorry, 3.1. There's a list of dates there. Can I remind members of the switch on in Castlederg on the 29th of November. I was at a meeting last night actually about that. So that switch on is on the 29th. And just for information, I know one of the organisers was fit to tell us last night there were people coming from Strabane to Castleberg who said that Castleberg was a far better switch on than actually occurred in Strabane itself. So, you know, there is a third major switch on that I hope folk are aware of. The switch on events are all there, fantastic, as I say, and you know there is the concentration naturally enough on the two major urban areas. But within the list of switch on events and the dates, when will we receive a list of the other switch ons, which are important within our DEAs for the various villages and communities throughout the DEAs that exist, particularly in the rural area? As I say, I know the date for the Castleberg switch on, but I would like to know, and I'm sure others would like to know, the dates for the switch ons, be it Donaghmana, Sion Mills, Plumbridge, Caleather, wherever they happen to be, because those, for those local communities, are just as important. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. You have enough to take?
Yeah, so happy just to confirm it. I mean, any business throughout the city and district that wants to be included in the programming, is welcome to. Likewise with the events, as you know, we had a number of events who were successful for Christmas funding on the Community Festival Fund, including Zion Mills Community Association for their Christmas festive programme, Castleberg, Switch On, the Waterside Neighbourhood Partnership for Waterside Christmas Cracker, Newton Stewart Leisure Complex for their Switch On, and the Bogside Brandywell Initiative for Christmas in the Cregan. So those, anyone of those, obviously who are successful, they'll be included in the programme as well. Obviously the dates here relate to specifically to those major events funded out of core budget, but it is important to note that there are a number of other events indeed funded by ourselves, but that will certainly be included in the programme. And I would say anyone else or any other groups that want to be included, there's no issues, and we will be doing call outs over the coming weeks to include those in the programme.
Just a subsidiary, I did note there that Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue are involved in, I think it's the city parade. Are they available to be involved in ones outside of the city? Because I've been told in the past that Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service cannot take part in those events. So what has happened there? You know, and I mean, our meeting last night at one of the fire and rescue commanders actually sits in our grouping. So what is the scenario there?
I don't know, it'll probably be a matter for Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service.
John, thank you.
Okay, and Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. And also on behalf of the DUP, thank you, Aideen and team, for the comprehensive piece of work. It looks great, and I'm sure there's been a huge piece of work put into date. My question was mostly the same as Alderman Hussey's. It was all around 2.2. I just really wanted to know if some of the social enterprises and crafters within the rural, particularly in the Fohan, if they were going to be reached out to, or if they were expected to make contact themselves. Thank you.
I would say, I mean, we do ask everybody that we've details for, but I would encourage anybody that has an event that they want to include it is to you know, come to us as well. So don't wait to be asked, because we have a number of mailing lists, as you know, when we do call outs, but don't be shy about sending through your event to be included, please.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. I always like to hear the Fohan mentioned there, you know. A Fohan councillor myself. So moving on. So number 8 is the Halloween event, and that is Aideen again.
So thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to update you on the planning and programme development for this year's Halloween festival, and specifically advise and award of procurement contracts for this and the annual events programme. The overall Halloween programme for the district will run from Friday the 25th of October to the 31st of October. Organisers planning to engage the public, private, voluntary and community sectors through programming a wide range of activities for all ages in over 50 venues at locations throughout the Derry City and Strabane District Council area. Various community events are taking place throughout the district, including Halloween Hoolie in Churchtown and Newtonshire Scarecrow Trail, who are all in receipt of Community Festival funding. The overall activity will begin with the Castlederg Apple Fair on Friday the 25th of October. Council-led Halloween programme delivers Strabane Halloween and the world-renowned Derry Halloween festivals. This year, Derry Halloween will focus on awakening the walled city within the streets of the walled city centre, and this element will run from Monday the 28th until Wednesday the 30th, with the main Halloween parade and fireworks taking place on Thursday the 31st of October in the traditional format and times. There's key details, highlights of the overall Derry Halloween programme, including Witchy Wonderland, brought to you by In Your Space, Haunted Projections, brought to you by Guildhall Sound Studios, the Elemental Garden at Ebrington, Rhodophonio, featuring the renowned designer and musician Cesar Alvarez, Stelzen Art Time Travellers from Germany, Hocus Pocus in the City of Bones, Back to the Future street performance at Newgate, Halloween musical with the Northwest Regional College, Magical Science at the Guildhall, Legendary Haunted Harvest Market, Carnival of the Dead on the 31st of October. There's a whole host of other programming listed in the report, and officers have also been working closely with local creative and community sectors, which will see programming at a number of organisations and venues throughout the city. Officers within the business and culture teams are organising Halloween business engagement event on the 2nd of October, targeting business, tourism, retail, hospitalities, and how they can get involved in the festival and leverage opportunities for their own business. There's an exciting programme for Strabane Halloween on Thursday the 31st of October, which will see trick-or-treat trails, street theatre, food stalls, dinosaur shows, magicians, and much more in Castle Street, Abercorn Square and the Alley Theatre. And work is ongoing with the bids team to ensure that businesses are on board with celebrations and offers, activities and events, and again, so that they can leverage as much from the Halloween events as possible. On Halloween night, a stunning fireworks display will light up the town sky. 2024 will also see the return of the Hay Bale Sculpture Trail, which will see over 12 groups and community organisations get involved in creating their own hay bale sculptures using the perfect blend of creative charm and spooky thrills. Marketing activities are set out in the report. They include broadcast, print, consumer engagement and collaborative campaigns with Visit Derry and Tourism Northern Ireland. The campaign aims to work closely with Tourism Ireland to position Derry as a capital of Halloween in their global drive to position Ireland as the home of Halloween. New approaches for the 2024 Halloween campaign include podcast advertising, additional digital challenge, a media drop, and the use of augmented reality to enhance engagement. The campaign's key message will highlight Derry Halloween as Europe's largest Halloween festival and the must-visit Halloween destination. The marketing campaign is being delivered despite a reduced budget of 32% over the past 2 years. Despite this decrease, the campaign is strategically designed to effectively reach key audience segments across Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and Great Britain. In alignment with Tourism Northern Ireland market segments, promotional efforts are concentrated on the Aspiring Families segment, NI, the Active Maximiser segment in the Republic of Ireland, the Culturally Curious and Social Energiser segments in GB. And again, the campaign will closely align with Tourism Ireland's focus on establishing Ireland as the home of Halloween and Derry as the Halloween capital. In order to deliver the Halloween and annual events, the following tenders were advertised and the following appointments were made. They're set out in the report with their duration. The majority of contracts for the 2024 events have been awarded locally. Officers are also working with the Northwest Carnival Initiative through its service level agreement for the delivery of the Halloween Carnival Parade. Members, it should be noted the impact of cost increases, funding cuts and overstretched interdepartmental budgets means the delivery of this award-winning event in the current format will have to be reviewed going forward. An application to Tourism Northern Ireland International Event Fund was submitted and successful with an award of the maximum of 100,000 for the 2024 festival, but this is a reduction on previous years of 5,000. And reflects the overall reduction in the capacity of this fund by Tourism Northern Ireland. In addition to cost increases and funding cuts, a gap has been growing regarding the funding allocated for marketing. As the profile of Derry Halloween has increased due in part to gaining international status, so too is a necessity for a larger marketing budget to be allocated to the event for a proportionate international marketing campaign to be achievable year on year. The overall budget, members, the details of which are set out in the report. Even with the environmental budgetary cuts, officers are still confident that by concentrating activities in city centre and the development of more partnerships and programmes with the creative and community sector, that the event will continue to deliver on its reputation as Europe's largest Halloween celebration. And just note the year-on-year challenge. Members, you're asked to note the contents of the report and approve the programming and financial arrangements as set out in the report. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Aileen, for that complex report. A few indicated speakers here. I'll take them in the order as they were indicated. Councillor Neelis, Councillor Anton, Councillor Farrell, and Councillor Harkin. Councillor Neelis, go ahead.
Just a few wee things, a couple of wee questions, then just a couple of comments as well. In terms of you were saying about being allocated the maximum of £100,000, is there any potential that the Department of Economy can do anything to assist in the Halloween market going forward for the city and district? I'm not sure, it's maybe worthwhile writing to them and seeing if they can assist in any way. One of the things I wanted to mention is the sorry, just from the order I want to put it on here. The new approaches in the media campaign. It's brilliant that you are now going down, looking at different routes for the media. And it's brilliant working along with Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland to promote it as worldwide. It's the best place worldwide. And by the way, Rory, just when you were saying about Christmas, Halloween is my favourite time of the year. So I am all into this one, as Ireland is officially the home of Halloween and where it originally originated. The budget's been cut over the past 2 years, as you were saying, for the marketing side. Has there been a report done on the effects of how the market had been cut from 22 to 23? Like, what impact did that have? It would just be interesting to see, because social media has moved on a lot and influencers and just everything has moved on from that time. It would just be interesting to see if the budget being cut at that time has had a huge impact on the scope that the campaign is getting and the audience that it's reaching. Again, it would be very interesting to see going forward from 24 or from 23 into 24 what the difference is made, considering you are taking new approaches now and how the campaign has been advertised. And just on that, my mum lives in Randallstown and she's seen it advertised on the TV today, so well done. Just the other thing was the financial benefit on local businesses. We know the financial benefit it has to tourism as a whole, but has there ever been a report done on how local businesses, how much benefit the Halloween, the weekend in total has on businesses, even like things like small shops? Has there ever been a report done, or has there ever been a survey done of like really normal businesses? I always love the story I heard about the Fla and about how this optician has said it was actually Stephen had told me this story about this particular optician had said that the Fla had created so much business for him because there was just so much extra money in the town at the time. Like people were working, there was more money to spend, there was more cash flow. So what kind of effect does Halloween have on the local businesses, aside from the bars and the hotels? And then the other thing was, I've been chatting to you about this anyway, Aileen, but the street vendors. I had people last year asking me about having some like hot drinks vendors along the quay on the night of the fireworks themselves. They said that, and I appreciate the drone show isn't happening this year, but it has happened. When it did happen last year, the crowd were standing around for quite a while between the drone show and the fireworks show, and there was nowhere for them to access a hot drink or some sort of hot snack. And I just think it's a very good opportunity just along that frontal quay area to maybe have a few vendors on there just for that particular evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neelis. You happy to take that now, Aileen, or do you?
So, thank you. Yes, I mean, we're in continual dialogue with Tourism Northern Ireland and indeed have been with the Department for the Economy. I suppose the issues that the majority of tourism funding is channeled through Tourism Northern Ireland. So we are in continual discussions with them around support for Halloween and how we can do that in whatever whatever ways we can. Regarding the analysis of we do analyse the results year on year. I suppose our concern, and I know I've reflected to you as members in this committee before, and indeed in a number of our working groups, that our concern really with the cut in the marketing budget is that we are seeing it's quite difficult to analyse the results. We're seeing the results now and of maybe 10 years of investment in marketing. So we are analysing it and we are looking at it year on year, but it is very difficult, and it's the one sort of warning that I have been given for a long time, that we as a council, as an event, and as members need to watch, that you can cut your marketing budget and you will not see the impact of that maybe for a number of years, because what we're seeing now really is the result of 10 years of consistent marketing and promotion of the overall place and overall city and district. And you know that yourself, if you're thinking about going somewhere on holidays, you might not necessarily see an ad today and book a holiday straight away, but you will start to think, my goodness, X place looks fabulous, and you'll start to hear people talk about going, and you will gradually start to think about visiting and maybe make your plans. And that's the concern. So we are monitoring that year on year. The last full economic impact evaluation of Halloween was in 2018. So we are overdue. One of the issues is to do a full economic impact study is expensive. We do survey the businesses and we do get a lot of that feedback and results. But a full economic impact requires, and it requires an investment and requires an economist. It's another thing we're talking to Tourism Northern Ireland, because it would have been part of their funding previously. So we are talking to them about doing that. So yeah, we are looking at it. And I know we're also looking at the street vendors. The application for trading for Halloween closed just at the end of last week. So we're looking at the map, but we are considering and hopefully we'll have hot drink provision along the quay for fireworks night.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Moving on, Councillor O'Farrell.
Gurmila Magara, Hirely, thanks very much, Chair. And Gurmila Magara, good evening, St. Clair. Thank you very much for the programme. I would welcome the programme myself, and I'm just looking at the events planned for Strabane this year. I was there last year in Strabane during the Halloween festival, and I was in the Alley Theatre. I was out in the street. It was absolutely brilliant. But as well as welcoming it, I'd be proposing that the Council ask for a meeting with the Department of Economy and Tourism officials to see what additional support can be provided from the department for the next year's event to complement existing support from Tourism NI due to the increasing costs and pressures to promote the event.
Councillor O'Farrell. Do you want to respond to that, Aileen, or are you okay?
Shingobra.
Okay, next speaker is Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. Just want to, I don't know, has it been seconded? Yeah, no? Proposed, even? Well, we're in agreement with it. In terms of the proposition, I think there's very, very exciting proposals on there that are going to cement Derry as the premier Halloween destination in Europe. I've got one question about Harbour Square and the public realm work that's going on there at the minute. That's slap bang in the middle of where people watch the parade. It's on the sort of the trail between the river and Guildhall Square. Is that going to be open come Halloween night, or is that going to be a sort of no-go area?
I don't know. It's the short answer to that question. We were due to have a meeting in the last couple of days with the contractor and the project manager. So I know they know that we have a particular event on the 31st of October. So we're working very hard to make sure that's happened. But I can't confirm whether it's going to be available. But we've a number of we are well aware of that issue, and everybody's doing their best to manage it. So
Because I like standing there. So I'd like to do it again this year.
Okay, we didn't make sure that he could stand on there. Wouldn't be fair otherwise. Maybe when you do get an update, you could send it out to committee members. Next speaker, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of comments and then some questions. And first of all, I want to commend Aideen and council officers who've worked, I'm sure with many others, to put together what looks like a spectacular programme for Halloween that befits our attempt to be the #1 destination for Halloween globally. And it looks very, very exciting. And one of the things that caught my attention there is the Witchy Wonderland, which, if you want to elaborate on that a wee bit, that would be great, because one thing that people have been in touch with me about that they've really enjoyed in the past is like utilizing the walls and having things on the walls directly. I know we had some issues there with capacity, but that looks like it'll be a brilliant event. And it's great to see that that's included within your space. And obviously, there are tremendous benefits to the parade that others have spoken to today, and that are well publicised over many years. But you know, again, the parade is a standout event, and the Northwest Carnival Initiative, when they were last in here, talked about how they were expanding the number of people on their board and expanding the number of organisations that are participating. And really, what makes Derry such a great place for Halloween is the fact that there's such great community involvement, and no doubt that has to be planned and organised and encouraged. So one thing that was good in the report as well was that most of the contracts were you know, for local organisations, which is great to see, because not only are we promoting buy local, I think it's important that we're supporting local organisations that really want the city to succeed and want Halloween to succeed as part of that as well. So I don't know if there's anything to elaborate on that in terms of feedback we're getting about you know, the awarding of contracts and people locally being happy with that. And obviously this you know, there's a big financial cost to the council. It's a big financial commitment, and that is to the many organisations that help make Halloween the success that it is. And I'm sure you know, many of them are struggling on their budgets and deserve probably more than we're in a position to give them right now. So even though it is a big spend, there's also great work behind that, because people, not all of this is happening. Obviously, this can't happen for free. So just a couple of questions about the finances. One is, I mean, I know £100,000 from Tourism NI is great, but it's down 5,000, and I'm just like, as you pointed out, it's probably more expensive. So that £100,000 is worth a bit less than in the past. So that's important to point out when we're trying to expand the Halloween activities and its success. And then just the 25,000 from the executive office, was that the same in the past? Could you just say a bit about that funding stream? I presume it's not a new one, but is that went up or down? You know, so that would be helpful. But again, it looks really great, and I'm looking forward to Halloween, as I'm sure all my colleagues are as well.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor Farrell. I'll try and make sure I get all of those points. But Witchy Wonderland, as far as I know, we are hoping to get back up onto the walls for some of that. It's still, that's the plan at the moment, so we're working on that. But I know everybody was keen that we would actually physically get back onto the walls. It's obviously it's challenging, particularly given the success of the event and the numbers of people we now have. But that's the plan. You mentioned the mix of local and local traders, and as far as I mean, we have a good, I think we probably have a good balance. We've got some coming from outside, and we have a really good representation from local providers here. I suppose there's always a balance. You want to make sure that the opportunities for local organisations are maximised, but that we're also welcoming to programming that comes from outside. The flip side of that is you want our organisations to be able to go. I would always argue, and I would always remind people, you want our organisations to be able to go outside the city and district and promote the place and promote themselves and avail of opportunities locally, nationally and internationally. So I think this year feedback is that we have a good balance of local, very strong local content, and then, you know, a couple of new pieces coming from outside, which always adds the flavour of the event and everything else, and that's healthy. So I think hopefully we've got the balance right on that. You asked about the money from, the money from the executive office is the same. Primarily, they fund activity at Ebrington. And as they gave us 25,000 last year and have committed to 25,000 this year. And I understand they're trying to slightly increase that as well, but that's still to be confirmed. But that is for activity, specifically for activity at Ebrington. I suppose that's their mechanism by which they fund that. So so there will be a lot of and as you know, we did that last year, and I think we did it the year before, and definitely is a plan for this year. Did you ask me something else that I haven't answered now? Was that it?
Okay, thank you very much. Have enough? Moving on, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you again for the opportunity, Chair, and thanks, Aidan. I'm sure, like other members in the chamber, we realise that this report probably started being put together this time last year, if not before. And I think sincere congratulations to yourself and all involved in putting a tremendous programme together. By the way, I'm not a fan of Halloween, but I recognise what's happening here. Just a couple of things from the report in 2.1. Activity began with Castlederg Apple Fair on the 25th of October. That actually will be the 25th and 26th. The Apple Fair has been extended into the Saturday by the local events committee. And with regard to funding, the committee had sought funding of 7,000, but were only granted 3,500. But that 3,500 is being used, I suppose, in the catalytic form, pump priming for local businesses, local community to come in on board and ensure that we will have that activity going over into that second day, into the Saturday. I think it's also important to recognise the autonomy of Castlederg Apple Fair. Yes, it's at the start of the Halloween period, but I know that there are those in our community who would be concerned that it would be called the Halloween Apple Fair because they don't want an association with Halloween. It's as simple as that. But they are supporters of the Apple Fair. That's not everybody, but there are those who would be concerned. So I think it's important that autonomy is recognised as Castlederg Apple Fair rather than Castlederg Halloween Apple Fair going forward. When I look at the key issues, 3.1, there's a list of tenders that were advertised and received. Now, the very last one refers to Derry Halloween. The others do not refer specifically to any, whether it's Derry Strabane or whatever. Medical provisions for events, St John's Ambulance, yes. Traffic management for events, Premier Traffic Management. Are those facilities available to others, or is for specific events that those tenders have been awarded? The reason, again, I asked that, sitting last night, we were looking at the cost for St John's Ambulance, the cost for traffic management that's going to have to be put in place for both Christmas and Halloween going forward. So are those tenders ring-fenced for particular events, or it's a 3-year tender that applies to all events within the council area over the period of time? But as I say, thanks for what has been done with regard specifically to the main events, but let's have a recognition that there are other events taking place, and I mentioned Hoolie on the Hill as one of those events taking place, which is classified as within the Halloween spectrum. But thanks for all the work that has been done. And just to remind folk, I mean, we talked about funds coming in there and funds being cut back. I think one of the things is that we as a council should be looking at the funding that we put in as a pump primer, whereby the community come in. Councillor Harkin referred there to community involvement. the community and local businesses coming in and filling the gaps, if gaps exist, in resources going forward to carry out these sort of festivals. So thank you, Chair.
I think your only question just related to those contracts. They're obviously they're only contracts for council-led events. So they're specifically ones that we spend money on directly. So it's particular procurement and contractual arrangement between the council and ourselves for events that we deliver right throughout the city and district. But a third-party event would not be able to utilise those contracts, no.
Thank you for that answer, Chair. It might be something to consider going forward for a lot of community events that are there, that obviously not now, and you've set into a 3-year programme, but going forward for all of those community events whereby those sort of provisions might be needed, that some sort of consideration be given to the wider community events throughout the district, whatever they may be, throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Hussey. Next speaker is Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. I've definitely seen an improvement on Halloween entertainment provision in Strabane over the past 4 years, and there's been a lot of positive comment from the public in relation to Halloween in particular. Obviously, we lose a lot of our young people to Derry at Halloween, and can't blame them for that. And that's a trend that will continue, if not increase. But nevertheless, it's an important event for those who, for one reason or another, can't make it to Derry, and also, obviously, the nighttime economy. So I would like to hope that there's still a wee bit of room for growth in Strabane in relation to Halloween in the coming years, but I look forward to this year's, and thank you for the report, really.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Our last speaker on this item is Councillor McHugh.
My good Chair. No, just a wee bit of accuracy. Paragraph 2.1 there refers to including Halloween hoolie in Churchtown. It's actually the Halloween hoolie is in Castledearg, and the organisers Churchtown Community Association.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McHugh. We'll get that amended. You want to have more indicated speakers, folks? We're going to move on. Number 9 is the Cultural Grant Aid Programme, and Kevin's going to take us through that. Kevin is not going to take us through that. Kevin's number 10. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to seek your approval to initiate the call for our culture grant aid programmes. As you know, this is an annual report. I will try and focus in this report on just a couple of the sort of, I suppose, pertinent changes to the funding programmes this year. As you know, we run Heritage Animation Visitor Servicing Programme, an access programme for cultural organisations, headline events funding programme, community festivals funding programme, which includes Christmas events, and artist and culture practitioner awards. And member, we're seeking your approval in this report to carry forward savings allocated to the Cultural Organisations Fund in 2024 and 5 into the 25-6 budget, and to seek in-year savings to meet the remaining shortfall in eligible awards, and to seek your approval in principle for the continuation of the proposed subvention programme for one-off national events. You'll be aware of the details of each of these funds, and the amount allocated in the rates is set out in the report. As regards each of the funds, the community festival funds, just to note, enables local festivals to apply for up to 5,000 and up to 10,000 to support community festivals. The total available budget for this resource in 24-25 should be 122,100. And this consists of a potential contribution of 29,700 based on last year's, or this year's for the Department for from the Department for Communities, and 92,400 from the festival events budget. You'll note, members, that as with the last year, there will be a separate Christmas events fund that follows the principles of the Community Festival Funding, but with more specific Christmas-related event questions. This fund enables applicants to apply from between 1,000 and up to 3,000. The Christmas Events Fund will prioritise allocation to at least one event per DEA based on eligible applications. And if there are no applications from any DEA, the funds will be reallocated into the main community festival fund, as happened in previous years. You should note, members, that extra budget had been found through savings to fund the 15,000 allocation to this over the last number of years. However, you're asked to note that additional budget must be added to the rates estimates and approved to continue this element and secure this fund. The Artist Award Programme remains largely as was. We have updated some of the applications, really in that not changing the essence of it, really just to make it more accessible. The National Events Subvention Programme provides a standardised mechanism for the assessment of one-off opportunity events. Based on the budget for 24-25, this should be 35,000, and members should be aware the current recipient of this fund was the Yes Festival. In 24-25, the total value of eligible awards for the Cultural Organisations Fund was just over 221,000 against an available budget of 192,000. You subsequently approved the allocation from savings to supplement this budget to meet the shortfall. Based on the awards allocated for 24-25 and with the subsequent closure of the Waterside Theatre Company as an eligible applicant, the total value of eligible arts organisations to this fund will be 207 against an available budget of 192. If the grant aid of 13,364 initially allocated to the Waterside Theatre is carried forward to supplement this, the 25-26 total budget for the year would be 205,364. This would still necessitate the allocation of in-year savings of 2,328, just over, to meet the remaining shortfall in eligible awards for 25-26. You should note that with the eligible awards totaling 207,692 against the available budget, the total shortfall in 26 and 7, as this is a 3-year fund, will be 15,000 unless the annual budget is increased through the rates estimate process or savings are identified that can be used to cover this shortfall. And officers will continue to work with our finance department to find ways to address this shortfall. From 24-25, the total value of funding contribution for heritage organisations sought from the tourism development budget under the cultural organisation was 14,000 against an available grant aid of 83,000. The remaining 69,000 of the tourism development budget was allocated to the Heritage Animation Visitor Servicing Programme. This fund continues to focus on the development of programming that engages visitors within these venues and support visitor servicing. It is proposed that this fund will be awarded in order of merit, now working from the top score downwards until the allocation of funds is exhausted. This will bring this fund in line with all other cultural grant aid programmes. Members, you might be aware that in previous years this fund has been awarded on a pro rata basis, with the fund basically being divided out, but we're planning to revert this to the system that's used in the other funds. In April 2021, members, you approved the mainstreaming of access and inclusion coordinator role. There are with the required resource to be drawn from the culture capital budget to meet the salary requirement. There are limited estimated resources for the access programme. And in previous years, once the grant aid assessment has been completed, officers have sought external support from the Department for Communities Access and Inclusion Programme, which we intend to do again. And officers will proceed with a call with successful applicants being issued a letter of offer in principle, subject to council subsequently securing funding from the Department for Communities. The current council budget within the access programme for cultural organisations will be allocated to the 10% match required for this fund. The headline events fund, it is proposed for the 25-26 that we continue in the main with the revised assessment scoring approved by council in November 2021, with qualitative community-based outcomes being the focus. Members should note that while the overall score from the economic impact questions remain the same, it is proposed that the rationale score be the overall score for this question and not the individual figures presented. These figures will be considered in the rationale score. Community festivals and Christmas event obviously play a key role in social cohesion and fostering pride of place that are of vital importance. The Artist and Cultural Practitioner Awards, again, only minor changes to their application to improve their accessibility. With the National Events Subvention Programme, members, it's proposed that we maintain the existing application. With, as always, there's a specific paper that's brought back to approve this. And one of the requirements of that fund is that you must speak to a member of the Festival and Events Fund at least 1 year in advance of your event. So in the event that there are no applications, members, you're asked to approve the allocation of this fund into the overall headline and community festival fund, respectively, if they're oversubscribed. The opening funds will be advertised in the local press, and again there'll be information sessions as always, and officers are happy to give as much advice and support to potential applicants before the process opens. Applications will be assessed by trained panels of officers. The outcome of the assessment will be brought to the Culture Members Working Group, where members will be taken through the process and the results in detail. The outcome of the assessment of the funds will be brought to this committee for decision, with the applicants anonymised, with members being asked to approve the process and overall rewards. It should be noted, members, that any of you are welcome at any time to see any aspect of the process or related paperwork by way of a request, either to myself or the director. There will be a series of culture working dates and diary invites for the coming year being issued in the coming days, but you should note that the relevant date for the culture working group discussing the outworkings of this will be Monday the 27th of January at 2 p.m. The proposed grant aids are drawn from member approved rates budget, with community festivals and access likely supported from external financial resources as outlined above. The council will, if successful with the DFC Access Programme, council will put in a match 10%. Again, they're all based on approved budgets in the current financial year, but will be required to be confirmed as part of the rates process in the coming year. You're asked members to approve the rollout to carry forward the sum of 13,364.65 allocated Cultural Organisations Fund into the next year's budget, and to seek in-year savings of £2,328.31 to meet the remaining shortfall in eligible awards this year, to seek approval through the rates estimate process for 15,000 allocations to the Christmas event to secure this fund, to approve the retention in full of the subvention programme for one-off national events and note their proposal to reallocate if required, and to bring the Heritage Animation and Visitor Servicing Fund in line with all other cultural grant aid programmes and award funding in order of top score downwards until the allocation of funds is exhausted. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that detailed report. One undecided speaker so far is Councillor Neelis.
And you can breathe now for a wee minute. That was quite a lot to get through. Happy to propose, and honestly, well done to your team and the streamlining you have done to make some of the funds more accessible. There's been a lot of hard work has went into that, and I'm not sure if I needed to declare an interest as being a past employee of the Cultureland, but just putting it out there now just in case. Yeah, and I'm particularly happy with the Heritage Animation and Visitor Servicing Fund, that it's going to be brought in line with the other cultural grant aid programmes, and the awarding system is going to match them. So, Garmaggot.
Thank you. Councillor Farrell.
Yep. Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. Happy to support on behalf of the SDLP. We had a lengthy discussion regarding this at the Culture Working Group. I didn't have any objections then, and I don't have any now. I just think this represents a massive, massive investment in cultural organisations that operate across the city and district, and that's something we should be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Alderman Hussey.
Again, thanks for the opportunity, Chair, and thanks for the report. As Councillor Nellis says, it's so broad to get through everything. And as always, we're chasing the money for all of these. But I want to look at 5.3, the recommendation of the 15,000 allocation. Members may recall that this particular element of Christmas events funding came via a system or a grant aid program that had existed in the former Strabane District Council, whereby the 15,000, the original situation in Strabane was that there were certain festivals were granted £1,000, and that led to the expansion of that into the wider council area, quite rightly so. from my perspective. However, if I look at that there and we're stuck with a 3,000 limit on it, in a DEA such as Derg, you have three main communities where there will be a seeking for this particular funding, namely Newton Stewart, Sion Mills, and Castlederg. So you have the three, basically £1,000 each. Now that figure of £1,000 has been sitting there for some considerable length of time. Aidan. So has there been any indication that the funding should actually be increased in line with inflation, even to enable groups who have been dependent on that £1,000 to have their festivals in Sion Mills or Newton or wherever it may be going forward? And if there was additional funding left over in a particular DEA, why should it go back into the community funding? Can it not be transferred into some of the other DEAs reference their particular Christmas events? So thank you. I know you're going to query that.
Well, it's just on a wee point of information. So there's 18,000 allocated by that fund. 3,000 came from the three £1,000 that you're talking about. That is still there. It was always in the rates. But at some point, it was I think about 2015, members were keen that we had a fund that was allocated to the neighbourhood renewal areas, which was this 15 that has never been brought into the rates. So that's what that 15 is. But the three that came from the Strabane Legacy Council that was allocated to three, I think it was Castledare. Castledare was one of them anyway, but that is definitely still there. I suppose what we probably agreed was that any of that we would prioritise certainly one application into the Christmas Fund. There is no restriction on any group applying into the Community Festival Fund for Christmas programming up to £5,000 or £10,000. So we ring fence an amount for Christmas to protect that money, that up to three. And there definitely will be one per DEA. That was to make sure, I suppose, that money was still protected for Christmas. But if a group in any part of the city or district wanted to apply for more money up to 5 or 10 and into the community festivals, there's no reason why they can't and do that as a Christmas event. So we're happy to talk to any group that wants to do that, but that money is, the Christmas Fund was, I suppose, ring fenced and protected to try and make it fair for everybody, because the issue we had was then there were groups who wanted to be able to bid and weren't. So this was, we had lengthy discussions and over a number of years about how we would do this as fairly as possible. But just on a note of clarity, that 15 is a separate amount to the 3, which still very much remains in rates. It is not part of that. So the total there was 18,000 that we've been allocating. But that 15 has never properly, as our director accountant is very keen to remind us, has never properly been brought into the rates book. So that's why that needs to be formalised.
Thank you. I welcome that clarification. It's 18,000 as opposed to 15. Thank you.
Okay. Happy enough. Moving on, Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Aideen. And I know there's a tremendous amount of work that's went into trying to sort out the financing of this to help as many organisations as possible, and it's cultural organisations that we should be supporting and doing our best for. And I know there's quite a bit of juggling going on, and there's an attempt to make this as fair as possible and have the greatest amount of scrutiny as well for councillors, and that's all included in the report. So I think that there's been an attempt to be responsive as well to feedback that we've got around the funding and so on. And just on the additional rates, I mean, it's not the hugest amount, but it's important that there is an extra rates demand, and I just think we need clarification as to what's going to happen with the City of Derry Airport, because this is something we've asked for that is a huge burden on the district. And I think that if that burden is lifted off the district or off the council and off ratepayers, that will allow us to, I think, even more effectively support the kind of organisations that are included in this report. Thank you.
Councillor McHugh.
Chair, my query doesn't relate directly to the report, but it does relate to the Community Festivals Fund. It's been raised previously by other Derg councillors, but the Derg Fest in Castle Derg has taken place for several years, and it has availed of the Community Festivals Fund before. And I think maybe this year was one of the years that it actually got applied to the larger pot and got funded through it, the headline pot. But when it was raised previously, council officers were to engage with the organisers of Derg Fest to see if, having announced that they weren't going to do it into the future, council officers were to engage them to see if indeed they were going to discontinue it. And if that was the case, has council officers explored possibilities of council stepping into the breach to maybe organise something in a similar vein into the future? Thank you, Chair.
My understanding was that, yes, that group have been engaged with, and I think they'd asked for a meeting to be postponed until this month. So I think it's due to take place to ascertain if they are going to continue or not.
That's fine, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And finally, Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you, Aideen and team, for another comprehensive report and the work that you've put into trying to make this process equitable across the various funds. I would be slightly concerned with the Christmas funding from a rural point of view when we're looking at different hamlets or areas that are looking to run events, and then they're nearly competing against each other. I'm particularly thinking of the Fawn. However, I understand the complexities of the funding, and I also just wanted to declare an interest on the back of Councillor Harkin's comments as the Director of the Board of Coda. Thank you.
Okay. No more indicated speakers. We'll move on to item 10, what is the skills delivery update September 2024, and that's Kevin.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to give you a broad update on the types of activities that have been taking place within the skills area of the business team, in particular focusing on the LMP, the Multiply programme, and then to seek your member approval to continue to engage with Department for Economy and stakeholders on the development of a shared apprenticeship scheme and a pre-apprenticeship employability pilot, and to accept a letter of offer in respect of above once received. Members will be well aware of the work of the LMP over the last number of years and its broad objectives around trying to provide flexible employability solutions at a local level. In addition to the work that the LMP team do, Council's skills officers engage at a sort of multi-sectoral level with employers, sectoral skills groups, the wider government departments, and they do this through under the auspices of the Education and Skills Delivery Partnership. And then from a wider cross-border perspective, engage with Northwest Tertiary Education Cluster itself. So on a positive note, albeit a wee bit belated, the LMP received its finally received its letter of offer there just at the end of August, and the total amount of funding allocated was as expected. Whilst this is a 20% reduction in the total possible funding that we as a council area could expect, it was what we were actually expecting itself. One note of caution within that letter of offer is that it has been extended from the 1st of April to the 30th of June. So it covers more than one financial year. And whilst this is really, really positive from a delivery perspective, because the programme has been delayed due to the lateness of the letter of offer, you know, it actually probably it's in actual fact it's a further cut really in terms of the actual finances available but actually makes it more deliverable, if that makes sense. Secondly, we updated members at a previous committee around the Multiply programme, which aims to address gaps in specific subject areas, vocational maths for speakers of other languages. It also focuses on mature learners, supporting prior offenders and those in the prison system to get into employment, and the support that helps children and parents learn numeracy together. That programme procurement has now commenced. We are hoping to commence delivery in October 2024. There's an ambitious target there to deliver 200 to 229 participants by the 31st of March 2025, but really complements the work that's going on within the LMP. And actually, when we talk to you about the other initiatives that DFE are speaking to us about, actually acts as a really good feeder and potentially into these types of programs. So under 3.3, members will be aware that previously in other committees and across council, when we talked about the investment that's going to go in over the next period of time through City Deal, a big objective of this council has been to try to ensure that this is delivered on an inclusive basis, and that this investment is wider than just the short-term capital investment that's going to go in, and the wider investment in innovation and regeneration across the city and district. So throughout this time, there's been lots of conversations around the potential skills gaps that may exist through the generation of these additional jobs, and the need for the jobs, specifically around the contractor development, the construction sort of timetable, the ambitious timetable that will be outlined over the coming months. So as a direct result of that, officers have been engaging with Department for Economy officials and brought together industry representation through the Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, the key players within the City Deal itself, Ulster University, North West Regional College, and the Construction Industry Training Board for Northern Ireland to identify the issues and challenges that exist and will exist. I won't go through every point within 3.3.2, but what I would say is that as we develop our own council-led projects, we're very keen to ensure that social value is integrated within the contracts that we deliver. So that's positive. That's on the demand side. On the supply side, then in terms of labour, we need to make sure that there are people, that the companies are able to understand how to bid for social contracts with social value requirements in them, and that the people exist to be able to fill the roles that will be generated as a result of social clauses and social value, whether it's apprenticeships and traineeships and that type of thing. So as a result of this engagement, Department for Economy have identified funding to assist in the development of a sort of model or a scheme, a kind of roadmap, basically, for us to be able to deliver. And the value of that's £47,000, and that there's a typo there. That's to be delivered by 31st of March 2025, and subject to approval, a letter of offer will follow. And sort of complementing that, and it's in advance of actual apprenticeships, is the idea of a pre-apprenticeship academy program. And this really will focus on the types of people who have benefited from, micro-credentials, small-scale labour market interventions, who have been participants in community training organisation-based initiatives like ESF programs, UK Share Prosperity funded programs, and that type of thing, as a kind of test case model to see what wraparound support could enable people with little or no skills to access an apprenticeship. The idea is to deliver 22 cohorts of 12 in Derry and Strabane, and the same in Belfast, and then to maybe scale that up in the coming years, and that will complement the shared apprenticeship scheme that I talked about previously. And just by way of update, and was actually the Derry jobs fair happened this morning, and this afternoon in the City Hotel. I was up there myself. The team rolled that out in collaboration with DFC. Very well attended from when I was there. We'll have the figures in a future committee, but there were 37 employers confirmed for participation. So there were plenty of jobs on offer, and there was plenty of support organisations there to help the participants. The next one will be in Strabane, just as a plug, on the 30th of September at the Alley Theatre, and we obviously welcome all participation in that. So in terms of the recommendation, it is to note the contents of the report and to give officers approval to accept the letter of offer for the shared apprenticeship scheme upon receipt.
Thank you very much for that, Kevin. So far, one speaker, and that is Councillor McHugh.
Good Chair, and just to thank Kevin for the report. Reading through the report, I think these programs are excellent programs, and I think it's important that council are delivering these within the city and district for the benefit of the people that need the upskilling. And just to say, I'm content to recommend or to propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor McHugh. Councillor Farrell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kevin, for the report equally. Similarly to Councillor McHugh, I think this is really, really impressive. It's important that we as a council play our bit in terms of improving skills of the citizens of this city and district. Do we do any sort of monitoring in terms of outcomes and outputs? Because, LMP, we're spending what, over $500,000 a year. It would be good to see what the impact of that is. Obviously, people go through these training academies, they go through various modes of training. It would be really useful for us as members to see, has that resulted with them moving from unemployment to employment, or has it seen them getting better quality jobs? It'd be nice to see what the outcome of this investment is. So is there any scope within the LMP or any of these programs that are included, just so we can see what the outcomes are? Thank you.
Yeah, the LMP is I was going to say something, but I won't, is very heavily monitored. So it's monitored on into employment, it's monitored on into training, education. It's also then evaluated on remaining in employment beyond 6 months beyond the training. So we do provide those updates, and actually the 23-24 action plan monitoring report will probably become as an information paper at the next committee in terms of the performance. That just closed out. Maybe one person awaiting a qualification on HGV. That's how granular it gets. So broadly, the LMP initiatives have performed really, really well in the into employment. So because they're all pretty practical courses, classroom assistance, childcare program, HGV, driving, software skills academies, advanced manufacturing, collaborating with companies who have to give you a guaranteed interview. So they've been pretty successful. It's been a challenge actually to monitor the after the 6 months, purely because it's very difficult to get people to respond to the surveys. So we're trying to work out how to do that a bit better. On the other ones, they're sort of pilots, so that would be built into the model itself. But yeah, no, we're required by government to provide all of those updates, depending on what we said was our targets at that point in time. But they're heavily focused on into employment. That's a big, big one for LMP.
Thank you for that, Kevin. Moving on, Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you, Kevin, for the report. On behalf of the DUP, we welcome the report. If it hasn't been seconded, I'm happy to do so. It's just really exciting to see the difference this is going to make for so many people, and the work that you have done already. Like, for instance, the job fair this morning, that just made me so happy and excited and just really thankful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks again for the opportunity, Chair, and thanks, Kevin. And I suppose particularly given that we're from an area that has, I suppose, become a construction industry hub in the northwest, namely around the Derg area, as you'll be well aware yourself. These types of programs are extremely welcome. Looking at the Multiply program, I suppose, speaking as one who's applied and additional maths was done without the aid of calculators way back in the day, I can understand now the need for this type of program. because the idea of mental arithmetic has just disappeared altogether from a lot of people's compass. With regard to the targets that are there are other bodies that have responsibilities, whether it's HMP, third level, or whatever. Are we assured that this funding going in there is additional and not being used as a substitute by the bodies who have a responsibility within those areas of delivery as well? Thank you, Chair.
So I would say that I can only speak from our own experience, and what we tend to do is try to identify gaps that exist. So, that we're not delivering something that the Northwest Regional College, for example, is tasked with delivering. And quite often what we do is if they don't have provision for it, we collaborate with them, and sometimes they will then program and we enter into an SLA with them to actually deliver it. And from a community training perspective, I mean, I suppose a big challenge around skills is around people's perceptions around education and formal education. So the types of people that quite often are being that are targeted and who participate in these programs quite often have had in their own sort of experience a pretty maybe poor experience of formal education and are reticent to maybe go back into that environment. So they want to avail of these programs in a community setting. So you're kind of trying to cover all bases, but the idea is to look at the gaps and try and identify the need from that perspective. You try your best to do that. I can only speak from our own experience. We've a great relationship right across all of the people who operate within this ecosystem. And it's a massive challenge for this area around skills. And if we don't get it right, we will fall further behind in terms of the economy.
Thank you, Chair. I very much welcome that clarification. Very, very clear that it is additional.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hargan.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Kevin, for the report as well. And I think it's very important that our council works with other partners to make sure people across our district are able to improve their skills and help people get into employment that aren't in employment right now. And I think what you said there about having opportunities for people to skill up or find ways of educating themselves that are not necessarily the formal mechanisms are very important. So the the apprenticeship programs, the pre-apprenticeship program or academy looks very, very good. That's very, very important that we do that. Can you give us a sense around the pre-academy program or pre-apprenticeship academy? What sort of participation? Is there lots of people looking to get into that? And how easy is it to get people involved? And then the second question is, I mean, you spoke to the fact that for people to be able to kind of improve their skills across our district is very important. We're very aware of the levels of unemployment and economic inactivity. Is there, in terms of the DFC installment funding, is that kind of done on the basis of what we would call disparities that exist in our district, or is this flat funding? Meaning, how does this compare to what exists in other places? And I'm looking at it through the lens of the particular and specific challenges that we face in our district. Thank you.
So the LMP funding from DFC is done on a population versus multiple deprivation measures. So it's fair and equitable in terms of how the fund's distributed, and so that's roughly we get 7% of the total allocation. That's that's the measure. These other pilot programs are specific. Not every council area is delivering these. Ourselves in Belfast, because the pockets of Belfast have as poor statistics in terms of economic inactivity is what we have here. So they're piloting them in areas where they know that there's need. So that's really, really positive. The challenge is, so it's not that there's people trying to access these programs, like say the pre-apprenticeship one that you were chatting about there. I mean, that the issue is that there's certain barriers that exist for people to basically enter into an apprenticeship, whether that's a need for maths and English at GCSE or the equivalent essential skills qualification, or whether it's issues around childcare, issues around equipment, general financial ones. So the idea of this academy is going to be to work at a really, really micro level with specific people that we know have been through these programs, identify what their way is it that they would maybe feel like, well, I can't do an apprenticeship and whatever that is. And through this funding, actually specifically allocate funding to that individual. So that's it's roughly about 110 grand for the 24 people. We've costed it up about 3.5 grand per participant, and to see if that works. So if you can do that for 24 people over a period of time, why can you not scale that up? And it's specifically at people who are the furthest away. It's not people who are now naturally thinking about an apprenticeship, because those are the people who can probably access it and feel confident to go into an environment. And then the other side of that is around the firms, the companies, the SMEs. It's around building confidence with them and their capacity to be able to accept an apprentice and to be able to offer a contract that's more than 2 years long. So there's multiple issues there, so it's going to be about trying to generate the demand to get the 24 people. I won't say it's just going to be straightforward, but we'll have a model at the end of that. And from a funding perspective, it's there's a measure to do that, and that's it's whether you agree with the deprivation stroke population measure. It's not for me to comment maybe on that.
Thank you very much. So that is that, folks. Moving on to our items open for information are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm just going to skim through them. So if there's any, just raise your hand as I go through them. 11, Councillor Hart.
Thanks, Chair. The work to align the Causeway Coastal Route and the Wide Atlantic Way route signage has taken far too long, given that the initial proposal to replace the signage at the border locations such as Muff was made over 5 years ago, meaning that tourists who are driving the route into the area from Minnesota are still being advised to follow signs for Coleraine and therefore bypassing Derry City and Strabane District Council area. I would like to propose that Council write to DFI to complain about these delays and ask that this work be fast-tracked.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor O'Farrell. Okay, moving on.
Are we still on this item? No, it's not on that, but it's, sorry.
Councillor Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I'd agree with what Councillor Hart has said there. Getting people into the actual district council area rather than skirting it is extremely important. But obviously the Wild Atlantic Way the route is where it is, and it goes up Brown, comes into the city, up Donegal and comes in. My concern is the lower half of the council area. And the question, I suppose, is what happened to the Appalachian Trail?
Who's that question to?
Whoever wants to answer.
Everyone's answered.
Appalachian Trail is still there and still available to anybody who wants to walk the International Appalachian Trail. Indeed, we were updating some signage on it the other day. So it's still very much there as a product.
Delighted to hear it.
I know you've raised this before. I'm on the Appalachian Committee, and I'm over a year in the council, and we've never had a meeting, and I think that's something that should be addressed because these things just fall by the wayside.
I think I might be on that committee as well, which is why possibly I've asked the question.
Maybe we can get an update on that committee and see when the next meeting is, or the first, and hopefully pull together and then get some more information. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, this is, I have a question about the City of Derry Airport bar. it's included here in the report, and I suppose we could say it's when people come in and out of the city, whether it's residents or constituents or people who are visiting. But it's been raised to me that the bar there doesn't accept cash, and I think that this dates back maybe to during the pandemic when nobody was accepting cash. And if anybody has the information about that, that would be useful. But I think it's tendered out, maybe the contract for the bar. But I think it would be helpful if the bar did accept cash. And since we have overall management for the City of Derry Airport, if we could make sure that it does. And I think it's for any entities that council oversee. I think, if people are able to pay credit or whatever, but we should also be accepting cash from people. I mean, there's definite sections of our population who are still very much use cash to pay for what they're doing. So if anybody can enlighten us, that would be great.
I can't enlighten you because I don't have any responsibility for the airport, but I'll certainly find out and come back.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Yeah, if we can find out, I know it's a private company, but I'm sure that we must have some ability to say that they should be taking cash in addition to card payments. I mean, we're not paying for flights here. It's just cash at the bar. Sometimes people will not have other means of paying for things. I've had people quite upset raise this with me. So it just seems like a basic thing that maybe that can be accommodated by the company there.
Sure, that inquiry can be made and update come back to you. So item 12, anybody? Nobody for item 12, item 13. Item 14. Go ahead, Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. So it's in relation to this item. So this item is about part of the Bishop Street car park is going to be used to facilitate the completion of the public realm in the city centre, well, within the walled city. And obviously that introduction of that public realm is going to have massive, massive benefits for tourists, local residents, shopkeepers, businesses, etc. once it's done. So it's expected to finish around April 2026, but in the meantime, it's going to cause disruption. So if you have a business on the periphery of where the scheme is being developed, and you can't get access to your premises, there's reduced footfall, there's going to be a knock-on effect on the revenue that you take in. So I've got a couple of, and from an accessibility perspective as well. If, for example, you owned a bar, the street was closed, how do you get the kegs in? How do you get deliveries? I've got a couple of questions regarding this. So has there been, first of all, what sort of involvement, I know it's a DFC scheme, what sort of involvement has council had in relation to the impact on ratepayers? So we're going to have businesses in the city centre that are going to be impacted by this on a temporary basis. Would there be any possibility that Department of Finance could provide or introduce some element of rate relief given the impact on their business, the disturbance that they're experiencing? And could council convene some sort of forum with businesses that are impacted due to this work? Because if you have a business on a street that's going to be closed, there are undoubted impacts on your business in terms of getting people in, getting goods in. There's going to be disruption. So I don't know if this is anything council has done or has considered, but I think there's businesses out there that fund this council, that fund all our wages, that probably need a bit of support over the next 2 years while this is going on. So I'd welcome any comments that officers can make. Thank you.
Yeah, so You're right in that it's a DFC scheme. So I do know that officers within environment regeneration sit on the project board as part of the public realm. So obviously the reason we bring it in is because it has an impact directly on the car parking to do with the compound construction storage and stuff like that there. So at the very outset, in terms of the scheme, the feedback from ourselves is around the need to ensure that communication is really open and proactive in terms of the businesses that are going to be impacted by this. And we spoke about it in different committees around the various different sort of, whether it's infrastructure improvements and this type of thing that's going on right across our town centres and city centres and that type of thing. So the answer to your question is that is front and centre in our minds in terms of making sure that that happens initially around the communication, and that we are proactive in terms of how we promote the accessibility within the city centre, to the point that we've been we've worked with colleagues in City Centre Initiative, Inner City Trust, Visit Derry, colleagues across this department in terms of marketing, tourism, around the production of materials to allow consumers to understand where the available parking is across the city itself. So that's ongoing, and we're proactive. I would need to go back. I don't have the answer to you around what the conditions are in terms of potential Department for Finance schemes and this type of thing to try to alleviate any lost revenue. I don't have that information, but it's something we'll certainly bring back. I'll also get an update from Tony, who sits on the project board, around what they're actually doing from a DFC perspective to convene businesses, because I know that in other schemes they have done, and we've led that in certain circumstances. So let's find out what they're doing before we sort of say we're going to convene a forum and that type of thing. So leave it with me is what I would say, but do understand that it's something we right across this department are taking very seriously around the disruption that's going on right across. And let's be pretty clear about it. If all of the investment that's planned starts to really happen, there's going to be even more disruption from a construction perspective and how we reimagine the city and the district. So I'll come back to you. I'll come back to this committee on that, if that's okay.
That's great. Thanks, Kevin. And because one of our key assets is the Tower Museum, which is going to be impacted when Bank Place closes, or is it Union Hall Place closes? So we are a stakeholder in that regard. So I think it would be really useful. So thank you for that update.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell, Kevin, for the response. Item 15 under open information. Anybody? Okay, that concludes the open business. We're going to now go on to confidential. I'll just wait until we get